We've all feared what's beneath the bed. It's a common fear that we all have. I mean, seriously, when we're younger, everyone fears this. I mean, what's not frightening about it? Underneath the bed is a dark space that lies underneath where you're at your most vulnerable in your life. The idea of something truly being underneath there that could possibly drag you into the darkness beneath is truly a terrifying thought for a child, and it doesn't help that certain Hollywood films embody that for a child to see. Fear is something that all human beings experience at least multiple times in their lives. I mean, it's something that truly makes us alive. Fear is something that almost every single thinking animal experiences. It's what keeps us out of those dangerous situations that could lead us to death. And fear can come out of anything for anyone. It can be over things that almost everyone fears, such as death and drowning, or it could be over something so small and minuscule like a cockroach or a spider that causes these extreme emotions to appear. But when I'm talking about fear, my favorite kind of fear is definitely the kind you have while watching any form of media. Movies and media are some of the most common ways that people experience fear in a way that actually entertains them and makes them want more. And films are great at towing the line between what we actually fear, to the point of being unenjoyable, to pure entertainment. Most of the times films won't go far enough to make you actually fear, actually truly for your life. But there are some that toe that line closer than others do. My name's ABA Short Films, and before we go any further, remember to like and subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please comment down below your thoughts on the video. I try to reply back to as many comments as I can, but if I don't reply, don't think I'm ignoring it. I might just not have anything to add to the comment, so please just let me know your thoughts down below, and let's get on with the actual video. Before we go any further with the video, let's actually define what fear truly is. According to Oxford Dictionary, fear is an emotional state evoked by the threat of danger. It is usually characterized by unpleasant subjective experiences, physiological changes such as increased heart rate and sweating, and behavioral changes such as avoidance of fear-producing objects or situations. So you might be asking, what does that mean? Well, see, fear is an emotion of the brain that makes it so if we see something that might be a danger or threatening to us, our brains will tell us to avoid that thing through fear. And fear is one of those emotions that you truly don't want to feel. It's scary, and it's what keeps you up at night. However, it serves a very important role in keeping us safe, so it is a vital emotion for us to feel. That's why certain things are just so frightening to us. Well, a lot of it leads back to danger. When we see someone getting their arms ripped off by some mutant alien,
Clear!
that's frightening, and it sets off the fear alarm. If the effect is well done enough, then the film will trigger the fear response because you yourself will feel like you are in danger of what's going on the screen. Or your brain will feel fear for the character on screen as you fear what's going to happen to them as they could be in extreme danger. And filmmakers generally do this to an extreme degree. They have many methods that they use to make you feel fear while watching a horror film. But what makes certain things more scary than others? Well, it mainly plays down to what in our mind is seen as more dangerous. Usually, if the film shows throughout that the certain object is a danger to human beings, it will cause your level of fear to go up, especially if it's a very believable effect. But it generally also has to be in the realm of believability. It can't be too out there, it has to be somewhere within the realm of realism. That's why things like Godzilla are not seen as frightening, as it's this huge monster that is not believable at all. It's not realistic whatsoever. While something that would go around killing people selectively like a serial killer is much more believable, so the fear is much more real. And for the next section, we're going to look at how filmmakers use that to their own advantage. One of the most common ways that filmmakers use fear is with the fear of the unknown in most of their films. See, the fear of the unknown is one of the most major driving factors behind my favorite genres of film, which is of course horror. Every good horror film is throwing us into a situation where we fear what could happen next, because due to the fact that the film is a horror film, we know a form of danger is going to befall the main characters. One of my favorite examples of this is the introduction in the 1996 film Scream. The beginning of Scream starts off with Casey Becker, a character we know nothing about, besides the obvious fact she's a high schooler and she's home alone. She begins cooking popcorn when she gets a phone call, but it's from an unknown caller that she has no idea who it's from. As tension in the call starts to build, so does the pressure inside of the popcorn cooking, and right before the popcorn policy gets about to explode, he drops the bomb in the scene.
Your name?
Why do you want to know my name?
I want to know who I'm looking at.
What did you say?
This of course causes her to freak out and hang up, which inadvertently makes her situation even worse, as she has just made her situation as bad as it could possibly be. As it's revealed her boyfriend is tied up on the porch just after the voice on the other end threatened to cut her up. We know at this point that the boyfriend is essentially set up for death. This is a horror film after all, but we still have hope that maybe she'll get the killer's question right, but of course, she gets them wrong. This leads to her boyfriend being killed in front of her, causing even more tension to build up, causing even more fear, as we know that Casey is the one in danger now, as it's just her alone with the serial killer. They ask her to answer another question about a horror film, which she refuses, which causes the tension to reach an all-time high as they breach into the house and she runs and hides. This causes the viewer's fear to raise, as we have absolutely no idea where the killer is. Now, why is that scene just so frightening? Well, it's for a couple of reasons. First off, we let our guard down as it's just the intro of the film, and there's nothing too threatening in the phone call until the one line. So, when the threat happens, it causes us to feel fear and tension as we have no idea what's going to happen next, and we now know that Casey is in extreme danger, as it's clear that the threat is not unfounded. The threat level is increased even more with the showing of the boyfriend, as what was the only hope of being saved from the killer, but of course he is unable to do anything as he is tied up in the chair and confirms that this is in fact very real what's happening to her. And then we see the boyfriend get gutted, leading to the fear level to increase incredibly, as we now know that this danger is very real for the character and she is most likely going to get killed by this newfound killer. And then fear reaches its pinnacle when the door gets smashed in, as Casey is now in the most amount of danger so far, as they are now in the house with her and there is no escape whatsoever. Then finally, the layer of the fear of the unknown comes into the film, as we have no idea where the killers are as she runs and hides, as we don't know if they don't know where she is or if they are just messing with her and playing with their victim. I believe this scene does fear and tension perfectly, and all things in the scene come together perfectly together to make one horrifying experience, and it's all helps that the creators of this film is a master of the genre, Wes Craven. This is something he was known for. He created other frightening series like Nightmare on Elm Street, so he definitely knew what he was doing for this film. But do you have to be a master of horror in order to create a scene this frightening? Ringu was one of the first films by director Hideo Nakata and has one of the most famous fear-inducing scenes, but it's extremely short. After a scene similar to many slasher films where we see a girl, Tomoko, get killed by a ghost that lives in a videotape after she gets a creepy phone call, but it doesn't reveal what truly happened to the girl during that night. All we know at this point truly is that she was killed by something that she saw in that videotape. But after the funeral, Reiko, Tomoko's aunt, goes to visit Tomoko's mother, who's extremely quiet and clearly going through a lot of grief over the death of her daughter. However, the scene gets really quiet as Reiko goes and explores the house, which causes the fear in the viewers to begin of the fear of the unknown, and it causes that fear to go nuts. We don't know at this point what killed the girl, and we don't know if what killed her could still be inside of the house. So each room that she goes through builds even more tension because we don't know if something is going to pop out. And tension is built even more as the camera does not cut away, causing more tension as the scene drags out in the film, causing your brain to think of what's going to happen. It just drags your brain along, causing you to feel the tension and the fear. This is one of the best ways that J-horror portrays horror. It doesn't cut away from the horror. If the scene is filled with tension, the scene will linger, causing the tension to build up more and more until something eventually releases the tension. Finally, when Reiko gets into the girl's room, the shots linger until the mom comes into the room and says this. This is the release of the scene, and oh boy, it is a great horror release. After building up all this tension on what could have possibly happened to Tomoko, it's shown, and oh boy, does it catch you off guard while you're watching it. It is a violent scene. It causes the fear in you to erupt as you see this danger is very real. This is a threat to the main character. This scene does fear extremely well, as the buildup in the scene is only to a level that J-horror usually goes to, and this scene shows that any horror creator can create a scene of pure fear if it's done correctly. So fear is extremely important for making a horror film, as a horror film without fear is not horrific. But fear is something extremely difficult to pull off correctly, but there are common ways to do it. The most common ways is to make a threat for the film and also to make it so things linger around. Lingering causes the brain to wander, as well as leaving some up to the viewer's imagination. Explaining too much of what goes on gets rid of the fear aspect, as you don't know what's going to happen next, which is an extreme component to the fear of the unknown, which is one of the most important parts of making a horror film. And fear is vital to the tension and the horror of what's going on, because if we don't have a sense of tension or a sense of danger with what is going on, then your film will have no sense of fear in it and will not build tension whatsoever, keeping the viewer from being interested and enthralled in the horror that's going on. Now that is all for the video today, so remember, if you like this video, remember to like and subscribe, and if you watch this all the way through, let me know your thoughts down below, and remember, I try to respond to all the comments I receive, so see you guys next week.